Our next witness, is it Stephen Carrier?
Steve Carricker with the Executive Director of the Texas Association of Community Development Corporations. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I think that first I'd like to thank you and the legislature for your dedication to the Housing Trust Fund. The efficacy and usefulness and benefits of the Housing Trust Fund is not in question. The legislature has committed to funding that Housing Trust Fund from very scarce general revenue funds. And the legislature has posed the question to advocates for housing of where might we find additional funds for the Housing Trust Fund so that we don't have to tap and depend so heavily on those scarce general revenue funds. And the answer to that has been in 24 or so states. This is a very efficient way of raising funds and is one that has been found to be very useful, not onerous, et cetera. And the 24 or so states that have effective, well-funded housing trust funds use the method that's proposed in Senate Bill 950. I would like to speak to some of the opposition of the funding source. And I think you'll hear from some folks, our friends, particularly in the real estate business, who have a philosophical opposition to taxing or putting fees on the transactions of real estate. We understand that and we sympathize with them. I think at the same time they'll tell you that they themselves are very supportive of the Housing Trust Fund. They just disagree with the funding source. And they're very sincere in that. We appreciate that. However, when we look at the cost of housing transactions, we must look at those total costs and see how they do burden the transaction of moving real estate. Just a few years ago, I sold a home for about $200,000, and in the closing statement, I had various fees tagged onto that. Courier fees to take the documents across the hall of $50 or $100, and we had a surveyor's fee of $500, an appraiser's fee of $350, and some title fees, and this fee and that fee. And we didn't have a $10 filing fee, and I'm glad it wasn't on there because I'd just as soon not pay an extra $10 or $20 if there were two documents filed. But at the end of the document, we had a fee on that $200,000 sale of $12,000 in realtors' fees. Now, realtors work hard. They earn their money. It's not an easy business. I sympathize with them. I have no problem with their philosophical disagreement. But we must put things in perspective. $10 on a filing fee is not a burden to the transaction of housing or any other real estate transaction. It is an opportunity for the state to put a great deal more money in the Housing Trust Fund, to leverage a great deal more in federal funds, to leverage a great deal more in private funds, as Chase Bank was here to testify.
Steve, thank you. And I want to be polite to all the witnesses, but because we have so many, I'm going to try and let you finish your thought around. When you hear the beep goes off, I just need for you to kind of wrap.
I understand, and my thought is finished. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. No indication. Edra Anderson, Associate Counsel, against. Do you wish to testify?
I do.
Okay. Please state your name and who you represent. I finally found a live witness here.
You found one. You got one. All right. My name is Edra Anderson, and I am Associate Counsel for the Texas Association of Realtors, and we are registered against Senate Bill 950. And while, of course, we strongly support the Housing Trust Fund and all of the goals that it seeks to accomplish, we simply cannot support the proposed funding mechanism that's contained in SB 950 as it has been filed. We completely understand and will grant you that the fee contained in this bill is small, but to us, this is purely a public policy issue. It's our position and the position of our 80,000 plus members around the state that it is the worst kind of public policy to enact a sales tax on real estate of any kind. The bottom line is that though we're only talking about $10 today, the reality is that once you open that door, it's only a matter of time before you see that $10 increase to 1% of the sales price, or $5 for every $100 of valuation, and then so on. It's just your classic slippery slope. I'll just give you some examples. 2 sessions ago, our government affairs staff went back and totaled all of the real estate transfer bills that had been real estate transfer tax bills that had been introduced that session, and that totaled up to $740 per real estate transaction. This session, we've seen 4 real estate transfer tax bills filed, only one of them having anything to do with real estate. The other 3 had to do with funding legal aid.
And which one might that be?
Which one?
Having to deal with real estate.
Yours. Senator.
All right, thank you
Absolutely.
very much.
You're right. Yes, yours does deal with the housing trust fund and has everything to do with real estate. But the example and the point that I'm trying to make, though, is that once you open that door, everyone's going to be trying to look for real estate to be their funding mechanism, and we just simply can't support something that would allow that to happen. Also, if you look at what's happened in other states, the two states that I'll point out are Florida and Illinois. Let's see, let me wrap this up for you.
For you to wrap up.
Sure. For me to wrap up, I'll just make this point. We do strongly support the Housing Trust Fund. We support all of the tenets that it's about, but we cannot support anything that would increase or that would create a transfer tax on real estate.
Mr. Chairman, given that you support it, how do you suggest, any suggestions on funding it other than general revenue? Given your strong support for it.
Sure. For the trust fund, not for the tax. But some other mechanisms that I could just think of, and this would be off the top of my head, I would always support a luxury tax. I know that those are sometimes a challenge, but those would be something that are a little bit broader based.
Luxury taxes on homes or what?
I don't feel that a home is a luxury. I really don't. I feel like
a house on a home over a certain amount.
I wouldn't be able to. We wouldn't be able to support something like that at all. Anybody's home is not a luxury.
We need the realtors to help us.
I understand, and we would love to work with you. We enjoyed working with you.
Give me some ideas on how to help the least of us, those that can't because
Sure.
early bus or have to hitchhike to work. How do we do it?
Well, and this is something that I thought of, and I haven't discussed this with our government affairs staff, who would have to.
Boy, we're in dangerous territory, aren't we?
Sorry now, watch out. I know. Mark is going to catch me in the hall afterwards. But my idea would be maybe if you were to put some sort of a fee on driver's licenses or something that would be a broader base.
That's not related to real estate, though.
Well, it doesn't really appear to matter for so many of our fee bills that come through. It really doesn't.
Okay.
I know. Well, and we're happy to work with you, and we're happy to discuss this with you further. We just, at this point.
We will agree to disagree.
We will agree to disagree. Okay. Only on the tax. That's the only thing.
Okay. On the fee.
On the fee.
Okay. All right.
Thank you. Do you have any other cards? No? Is there anyone else wishing to testify